Hi, and welcome to another episode of the Cover Zero podcast, the show where I cover the Leafs in the best way possible. I'm your host, Jason Wells. Today is September 11th. Week 1 is officially wrapped up, and honestly, kind of a smelly week of football. Not a lot of good offensive performances. It really wavered up and down the entire time, but it was back. We got football. Some of us already very disappointed with the way that the seasons are going to go and how they started. Some of us, the expectations are through the roof, and some of us we're like, okay, 1-0 club, congrats, we made it, or okay, we lost, but that was a better game than so there's some middle ground right now. But this episode, I am here to talk about all of those week 1 performances. Also going to be recapping a little bit of college football. As always, the NFL Weekly Update. We have a packed show here. And I will start it off with, I am just thankful to be Canadian. And I am thankful to be a Canadian mainly because I just have to pay for TSN and I get my NFL. Also Stream East. If the Dolphins game isn't on, I'm going to illegally stream it. But I don't know. I think I pay, it's like $23 a month for football and red zone and all that. But if you're in the States, you got to have CBS, ESPN/ABC, NBC, Fox, YouTube TV, Peacock, Netflix, Amazon Prime, just to watch all of the NFL games this year. Me, I got TSN. I got Stream East. I'll be okay. That's a ton of money to try to get all of that. I'm not paying for DAZN anymore. DAZN's an absolute scam. They're a bad service. Way too much money for what you get. So shout out to TSN. Shout out to Canada. And I guess one other thing before I get started here with the recaps and whatnot. I told everyone in the preview show last week, bet the unders. The unders, I think they were 42 and 22 or something like that over the last 4 years. They went 8-9 this week. Not great, but of course, when I would post something about being like, this is it, look for this trend, of course, the trend ceases to happen. There were a lot of unders, obviously, it was pretty evened out, but it was rather a really low scoring game or a really high scoring game. Wasn't a lot of in between, but let's start off with a little bit of the college football recap highlights here. Number 5, Notre Dame pays Northern Illinois $1.4 million to come play them, and they lose. Down goes Notre Dame. Nebraska is back with Pat Mahomes Jr., Dylan Raiola. He's literally like a Mahomes copycat. It's crazy, but they take down Colorado. Colorado is just a weird football program. I'll just leave it at that. Texas takes down Michigan. Michigan not looking good, but they lost a ton of talent to the NFL last year. A couple of true freshmen that we got to look out for. Dylan Stewart out of South Carolina, a true freshman edge player. He has been a stud in his first 2 weeks. I believe they play LSU this week, and LSU has 2 very good tackle draft prospects to look out for, so that'll be a very good matchup. True freshman DJ Lagway out of Florida getting his first start, and he was 27 yards away for breaking Tim Tebow's record for passing yards in a game. He played spectacular. He looks great. And then finally, other true freshman, Jeremiah Smith, the 18-year-old wide receiver 1 on Ohio State. He is ahead of Emeka Ibuka in all of my things anyways. True freshman, 18-year-old. He's only going to get better. Ohio State just keeps getting these wide receivers. And finally, Army had a 44-yard passing TD. That's crazy. If you don't follow college football, probably doesn't sound that crazy, but it's crazy. Those are the college football highlights for this past week. And let's get into some NFL news here. NFL Weekly Update time. Dak Prescott, the highest paid man in NFL history now. 4-year, $240 million. $231 guaranteed. That is insane. $60 million AAV. Congrats to Dak Prescott. I didn't think Jerry was going to pay that much money. Maybe if Trey Lance had a better preseason, Jerry wouldn't have paid him. I don't know. But good for Dak. Obviously, Dak Prescott being the highest paid QB in the league by now quite a bit is that's something. Does he deserve it? Obviously not, but that's not how the NFL market works. Just depends on when you get your contract, at which time. I'm sure Pat Mahomes is regretting signing that 10-year contract. Obviously, they're renegotiating and whatever, he's still getting his money, but like, that's crazy. Good for Dak, though. Dak, at the end of the day, still is a very good quarterback in this league. Is he a very good quarterback who can maybe will his way to wins as other QBs can? Definitely not, but he is a top 10-ish quarterback in this league, and that's just what the QB market is. You got to pay to keep your guy, because a lot of teams would definitely pay Dak that much money in the open market. Guys like the Giants, guys like the Raiders, like, they are desperate for franchise QBs. So Dak's staying in Dallas. Got a couple corner contracts here. Jalen Ramsey, 3-year, $72.3 million extension. Happy we get to keep him in Miami. And now we can see that Miami is on kind of a 3-4 year plan with the way that our contracts have been given out. That's fine by me. Again, I like our core group of players that we have all paid right now. They're all strong. Ramsey, Tyreek, a little on the older side. Obviously, you hope that because they are so elite still, that they will have a graceful decline once they get into their mid-30s. But Ramsey is still easily a top 3 corner in the league. Top 5, definitely. So yeah, happy for him. And he is now the highest paid corner in the league after that extension again, breaking Pat Surtain, who had the record for about a day, I think. Pat Surtain, though, 4-year, $96 million deal, $77.5 guaranteed. Again, top 2 corner in football, the only guy worth a damn on that Broncos team right now. He is excellent. He deserves this. He did shift the corner market by quite a bit. I think it's 24 million AAV. I don't know if that number sounds right. It sounds right to me. But Sauce still needs to get paid. Sauce will top both Ramsey and Tyreek. But this is kind of what we've been waiting for. Wide receivers are getting paid so much money. And these corners are like, why the fuck is our top guy getting paid 20? Why is he getting paid the same amount as Christian Kirk? Which is crazy. And now it's getting there. I think Sauce will probably 26, 27. We'll see. But yeah, congrats to Pat Surtain. Spencer Brown, the Bills left tackle, 4-year, $72 million deal, 45 guaranteed. The man is massive. He is 6'8". He is hard to move. This puts him in like the Mike McGlinchey territory for money, which I think is a very fair deal. Still fairly young. I forget he was drafted. I think he was drafted this decade. But yeah, when he is on, he is on. He's kind of, his play is dipped and wavered a little bit, but when Spencer Brown is having a good game, Spencer Brown is having a very good game. Good for the Bills to lock him up. Cam Hayward, the longtime Steeler, 3-year, $45 million extension. He's going to retire a Steeler. Like, good for him. He's had an excellent career. Maybe Hall of... Nah, I don't think it... I don't know if he was... No, he definitely wasn't a part of that Super Bowl team. Very good career. Potential Hall of Famer. Definitely Hall of Very Good, though. And yeah, the Steelers get to keep one of their pieces on the interior of this defense for around a little while longer. Speaking of the Steelers, Pat Freiermuth, 4-year, $48.4 million, puts him around like the Cole Kmet type money, which I think Freiermuth is a better player than Cole Kmet, more of a do-it-all guy. I think that they paid him a little early and at a good price, but he could soar into one of the better tight ends in the league, in my opinion, if maybe he gets a quarterback. But good on the Steelers to lock those two guys up. More extensions here. Michael Carter, the Jets nickel, 3-year, $30.75 million deal. Honestly, I know the name Michael Carter. I know he plays for the Jets. I knew he was good. I didn't know he was this good. I didn't know he was like, oh, I'm one of the best nickel corners in the NFL good. So you learn something new every day. Shout out to Michael Carter. And then Harrison Phillips, 2-year, up to $19 million 13 of that guaranteed. Just a solid contributor, a guy who's been on the Vikings for a while now, was a former first round pick, but just like a solid role player, solid contributor. So congrats to Harrison Phillips. Moving on now into some deeper NFL news. Kendrick Lamar named the Super Bowl halftime show for the 2025 Super Bowl. I don't know why I said that weird. He gets another year, another 6 months to torment Drake. I think that's hilarious, but Kendrick's going to put on a really good show. I'm sure there's a lot of old white people who are upset with that, but Kendrick's going to be awesome. Xavier Babudar, also known as Chief Saholic, sentenced to 17 and a half years in prison for 11 armed bank robberies. This is like, what the fuck are you talking about? That's fair. So Xavier Babudar, Chief Saholic, better known as Chief Saholic, was a Chiefs superfan who needed some money to, do some things, and robbed 11 armed bank robberies. And now he's going to jail for 17 and a half years. He is going to miss the rest of Pat Mahomes' career, but at least he got to see 3 Super Bowls. That's not a bad trade-off, maybe. That's kind of an insane thing to say, but like, I don't know. How long would you be willing to go to jail for if you saw your team win 3 Super Bowls? I can already hear, I've already seen 6. We're the best. Nah. But I don't know. 3 Super Bowls, 17 and a half years in prison. Obviously, I wouldn't go that long, but like, I think I could do a year in prison for like 3 Super Bowls, maybe 2. That might be crazy. And finally, Dan Campbell kicked ass in an Applebee's commercial. That's it. Like, he's great. Obviously, if the Lions start to do bad, the screenshots of that, Dan Campbell working at an Applebee's, they will come out. They will be funny. And I'm sure that even in a few years from now, if the Lions take a turn, Goff gets older, whatever, roster construction, doesn't matter, they will come out eventually. But Dan Campbell kicked ass in that commercial. So shout out to Dan Campbell, one of my favorites. Okay, week 1 recap here. Before I get into the week 1 recap, though, the new kickoff rule. We finally got a week of seeing what the new kickoff return rule was. And it sucked. Special teams coordinators are like, no, we'd rather just give them the ball at the 30, give up that extra 5 yards. It was at the 25 last year. They're like, why would we do this? We trust our defenses. 5 yards doesn't mean anything to us at the end of the day. And it's too bad, because they are fun kick returns, and if someone does perfect landing that ball right in the 2019 area and having it bounce and roll, the defense usually stops the returning team like inside the 20, inside the 25, definitely. But we did, however, see 1 kick return touchdown, which I'll talk about in that Bills-Cardinals game, but a shout out to DJ Dallas. My hot take might still be alive. We're averaging 1 a week right now. It's doable, but let's get into the week 1 recap here. Starting off with the game that we watched most recently. It is that Monday Night Football game. Jets 19, 49ers 32. If you're wondering how I'm like sorting these games, if you have the Score app downloaded, it's that same order, but I'm starting with the Monday Night Football game instead. So yeah, Jets 19, Niners 32, yeah. Same old 49ers. They looked good, looked a little shaky early on. They got in their groove. Brandon Ayuk clearly shaking off the rust with a couple drops that uncharacteristic like from him, but they looked great. No CMC. They're being precautious with his calf/Achilles injury. You don't like hearing Achilles when it comes to injuries, especially in running backs, though. But Jordan Mason, the undrafted free agent, looked electric for them. 28 carries, 147 yards, and 1 TD. Yeah, the Niners were the Niners, and you could see a little bit of issues. Colton McKivitz looked like crap. Trent Williams, after no training camp, just steps in and is immediately the best left tackle in football, like he always is. Purdy looked very good. And yeah, Fred Warner is the best linebacker in football. Fred Warner, his ability to move across the field is crazy. He's just everywhere making plays constantly for that defense. He should win a Defensive Player of the Year at some point. It's just so tough for linebackers to actually win it. But Fred Warner is that dude. I really don't got a lot of bad things to say about the 49ers after last night. They are a very good team. They always will. We'll see them in the NFC Championship game probably. The Jets on the other side. Man, that one drive was good. They drove down the field. They went 70 yards. Throwing the Breece Hall, Garrett Wilson. It was working, and nothing. Nothing for the rest of the game until Tyrod Taylor comes in with 5 minutes left to lead them on another touchdown drive, which is just flat out embarrassing. I don't know, okay, we're being precautious with Aaron, whatever. He needs reps. Aaron Rodgers did not look like the Aaron Rodgers that we've come to know and expect, the guy who was winning MVPs in 2020 and 2021. He looks old. He looked like a statue. He could not move in the pocket whatsoever when the Niners got pressure. When that line held up and he was able to make some plays, it was still just all right, because we're not seeing that MVP Rodgers anymore. We are getting a version that, yeah, he can hit those easy throws, but those spectacular, great plays, he's relying on the wide receiver now to make the throw. I don't see him throwing into, I don't know. Again, it's week one overreactions, but I think that Rodgers is worse than Jared Goff is at this point. And Jared Goff is a very good quarterback, capable quarterback, but an old version of Goff. He just doesn't have what used to make him special anymore. And that's what happens when you're almost 40 years old. The Jets have their issues, though. I don't know. The offense, you could see them wanting to feed Breece Hall. You could see them targeting Garrett Wilson. It just looked like the same offense as last year, except instead of Zach Wilson, they now have Aaron Rodgers. And Zach Wilson, who was missing all of those easy throws, Rodgers was making a lot of them. But outside of that, the offense, didn't look that good. They were playing the Niners, and the Niners' defense is excellent. So we'll see the Jets next week. I don't know who they have. They're playing someone who they should beat, I believe. But I don't know. This Jets offense, it looked okay. It looked okay. Again, lots can happen. Aaron Rodgers was allergic to the right side of the field. I don't know why. His passing chart was very funny. I think he only had 2 attempts to the right side. The defense on the other side, which was by far their best unit the last couple years, Hassan Reddick won. Hassan Reddick holding out was clearly the right call, because oh my god, did the Jets need help at edge. Jermaine Johnson was okay. Will McDonald, I barely even noticed. I think Michael Clemens also played edge for them a bit. It's not good. I think Michael Clemens also got banged up at some point. But that defensive line is just Quinnen Williams at this point, and they're not getting pressure. Quinnen Williams is great, but he cannot be a one-man wrecking crew on his own. At least someone needs to contribute, because if you're not getting pressure, the secondary, while it's great, can't lock up their guys for as long as they can. And yeah, Hassan Reddick won. I think that the Jets are going to pay him if they don't pay him. Joe Douglas is already on the hot seat for me, so nothing has really changed. And other than that, yeah, the Jets, they're already banged up a little bit. I mentioned Michael Clemens, CJ Mosley missed a little bit, Sauce Gardner missed a little bit. There's also rumors that he actually got benched, and I don't know what the hell's happening there, but Sauce needs to be on the field regardless of what's happening off it. I don't really care. But yeah, this is the healthiest the Jets are going to be all year. And they're already a little banged up. Lots of teams are banged up, though, including my own. But yeah, I think that's it. Okay, going all the way back to Thursday night kickoff there. Ravens 20, Chiefs 27. It came down to the wire. It came down to an inch. Isaiah Likely's toe, literally an inch out of bounds. It was a great game, but at the end of the day, the Chiefs, who, again, missing some guys, some things to work out, the Chiefs look like they could be in a tier of their own. It's as simple as that. Like they looked great. Rashee Rice, the new slant king. Everything was an inside route. I didn't actually write down his stats. I think he had like 9 catches for 100 and something yards. Like, he was awesome. Xavier Worthy, 2 TDs in his debut, surpassing former Chiefs mid-round pick Sky Moore from a couple years ago. Yeah, Sky Moore only has 1 career touchdown. I know that's kind of crazy. The defense, like, Spags was doing his thing. Jalen Watson, Shamari Connor, they held up well. Trent McDuffie is Trent McDuffie. He's just absolutely incredible. Chris Jones absolutely ate that Ravens interior offensive line. Like, the Chiefs are good. Again, another pencil them into the AFC Championship game this year. Like, it's as simple as that. Anything else from the Ravens, really? Nah. Juju actually played, like, after getting cut from the Pats. Like, shout out to Juju. I'm sure that he'll kind of, but, like, he missed some plays, he made some plays, but, like, shout out to Juju for actually getting reps on a team. Ravens on the other side, I briefly mentioned it. That interior offensive line, that offensive line in general, is an issue. The interior, the 2 new guards, Daniel Falele and Andrew Voorhees, did not hold up whatsoever. Ronnie Stanley played like Ronnie Stanley. Linderbaum played well. The right tackle, the rookie Roger Rosengarten, he had some nice plays, but again, he's a rookie. He's raw. He got dominated by Karlaftis and Chris Jones when he lined up there too. Like, again, week 1 overreactions. It can get better, but fuck was it bad. And again, they're playing a very good Chiefs defense, so you kind of expect that. They're playing Chris Jones, future Hall of Famer. You kind of expect that. But Lamar was still Lamar. Lamar, I think 112 rushing yards. Like, he was the entire offense. If it wasn't for Lamar, like, this game could have been a blowout. It should have been a blowout, but Lamar was the only reason why they still stayed in it. And obviously Isaiah Likely, tight end 1 potentially, I don't know. But he was their big weapon. 2 TDs. Was it 2 TDs for him? Did I not? I don't think I wrote down his stats. And Isaiah Likely actually deserves me to go look up his stats here. 9 catches, 111 yards, 1 TD. He was the difference maker, and Mark Andrews left left catchless. He wasn't, though. He had a couple catches, but Isaiah Likely seemingly took over his role. I do think it will be a 1A, 1B type thing, regardless of who's there at that spot, but I think that Andrews will have his big games. I think Likely will have his big games, and that sucks for fantasy owners because you don't know which one to start. The Ravens will be fine. The defense looked good. Shout out to rookie defensive coordinator Zach Orr, who is only in his mid-30s, going against Andy Reid, like one of the best offensive play callers all time, and he held his own. The Chiefs had multiple short field opportunities where they could have kind of put the game away. Maybe I'm thinking, no, I think that, yeah. And the Ravens held them to field goals. So shout out to Zach Orr. Anything else in this one? Same thing. I wouldn't worry about Derrick Henry. Like, Derrick Henry was not part of the game plan in this one. He was shut down early. The Ravens could not do what they wanted to do, and that's run the ball effectively. He will get his games. 100%. Again, once the O-line maybe steps up a little bit more, but I wouldn't sell Derrick Henry this early. The Friday night game in Sao Paulo, Brazil, where the NFL beat writers couldn't tweet about the game and had to text their wives to do it because Twitter is banned in Brazil. Crazy. Packers 29, Eagles 34. This was 2 teams who were clearly working out a ton of kinks in whether it be the Eagles and new offensive line. Cam Jurgens had a few bad snaps, which led to fumbles. The secondary clearly working itself out to Avonte Maddox. I shouldn't be on the field. I feel like every time the Eagles secondary and defense did get torched, it was because of Avonte Maddox. Like, Eagles were working through some shit. Same thing with the Packers. Packers trying to get all of their young receivers involved. Couple drops, couple errant passes by Jordan Love. Lots of penalties in this one. Lots of sliding around on the field. But yeah, talk about the Eagles a bit first. Actually, I guess we'll keep talking about the game. Like, this was a very good game, and then Jordan Love gets his knee kind of bent in the wrong way. Ends up being a sprained meniscus or MCL, one of the M1s, and he's going to be out for 3 to 6 weeks, which absolutely sucks. A lot of people blaming the field. The field was fine, but the field was not made for American football. The field was made for football, and players, soccer players, they slide. They're not 300 pounds of pure muscle stomping into the ground as fast as and hard as they can. And that's on the NFL for not making a new field and not testing it and not making sure it's up to like their standards or what should be their standards. So shout out to another embarrassing thing for the NFL again. Now we can get into the Eagles. Welcome Saquon Barkley. 3 touchdowns, 1 receiving, 2 rushing. Absolutely crushed it in his debut, and that must just kill Giants fans to watch, especially after seeing what your team did over this past weekend. We'll talk about that soon. The O-line still looked good, yeah. There was a little bit some snap issues, but the O-line is solid. The O-line is very good, despite losing Hall of Famer Jason Kelce. Cam Jurgens stepped in. He looked fine. Shout out to Nakobe Dean. I thankfully kept all of my Nakobe Dean draft stock. And he was flying around making plays. I feel like the broadcast was calling out his name constantly for being in the backfield, like just making plays. And I've been waiting for this. I've been waiting for this since he's been drafted. I forget, he went late draft. Like, I thought he would be a first-round pick, definitely a second-round pick, and he fell down the draft board, and hopefully he has found his home as one of the Eagles starting linebackers here. Also, shout out to Zach Bond. He also looked good, and that's somewhere where the Eagles have been lacking for the last couple years, is that like inside linebacker spots, and it looks like they have 2 decent ones. And yeah, Jalen Hurts. I think that's kind of where we need to talk. He had his moments. He had his like, what the fuck are you doing type plays, and I don't know where I am with Jalen Hurts right now as a quarterback. He's still in and around my top 10, that's for sure, but I don't know. He's like a different type of the Goffs and the Cousins and the Purdys and the Tuas type thing. Like, he's in their same like level type thing, but a different category. Like, I don't know if Jalen Hurts can do it on his own type thing, where you can see the physical ability and the tools, but can he carry a team at the end of the day? I don't know. Where it's the other guys they will make all the right decisions. They will not put you in spots to lose, but when you need them to get you to win, I don't know if that's the case. And I think that Hurts is just in that other tier where it's like, you're either going to win games or you're going to lose games at this point. And I don't know if there's enough of he's going to win games. Like, it's a tough balance in that slot. But I think he's in, I don't know, who would I put him in that category with? It would be Jalen Hurts. It would be Herbert. Anthony Richardson at this point. Yeah, I think that sounds about right. Jordan Love. Those would probably be the 4 guys in like that tier versus the guys, I don't know, like Tua and Purdy and Goff and Dak and whatever. Talk too long about that. So like Jalen Hurts, I think is a good quarterback, but there can be a real agenda to be had against him if you want to push an agenda against him. I'll say that. Yeah, I think that's what I had. That's all I had. Oh, shout out to Quinyon Mitchell. He looked great. And yeah, other side, the Packers are now looking at Malik Willis to be their starting QB for the next few weeks. That is not good. And this wasn't a great performance. Outside of Jaden Reed was incredible. 4 catches, 138 yards, and a TD. Could have been 5 catches, 170 yards, and 2 TDs. But a play was called back for a holding or too many men on the field or something like that. But Jaden Reed is the guy, the number one wide receiver on that Packers team. I think that's established. Now, they're still trying to get all of their guys into the mix. Romeo Doubs had 4 catches on the day also. Christian Watson tried to get involved. Dontavian Wicks, they threw him the ball. He just decided to not catch it. And the other thing with the Packers offense people were confused about was Tucker Kraft, Luke Musgrave. Tucker Kraft outsnapped him by like 75%. It like wasn't even close. But yeah, unfortunately, like Jordan Love is hurt, and Jordan Love statistically 50% completion percentage, 260 yards, 2 passing touchdowns, and interception didn't look great. But watching the game, you could see the plays that were missed because of dropped catches or because of penalties called back. Jordan Love had a good game. Was it a great game? By no means, but I would be happy with that performance from my QB week in and week out. Maybe not week in and week out, but like as like a baseline test, like that's fine. He did pretty good. But now, yeah, it's Malik Willis. I don't know what to expect from him. Like, really, it really shouldn't be a lot. They're talking to Ryan Tannehill, which would suck for Malik Willis because Malik Willis had to sit behind Ryan Tannehill. And I don't think he probably wants to do that again. Yeah, I guess other note from this game, Jair Alexander, I think, is taking a step back. He got cooked a couple times, whether it be by Devonta Smith or A.J. Brown. Both those guys still look good. Like the Eagles, both of these teams, well, the Eagles can now. I don't know, with Jordan Love's injury, I don't know where the Packers are going to be. Josh Jacobs also didn't look good. The stats say he looked good, but he had like 3 big runs kind of to end that game and didn't do shit for the first like 3 quarters of it. But yeah, the Eagles, I think, are trending in the right direction. You can see how they can come together and how they can rally for a Super Bowl. The Packers, I don't know now with Jordan Love being hurt, but like you could see the pieces there, and then Jordan Love got hurt, and now I don't know. We'll keep going. We're already a half hour into this, and I've only done 2 games, but fortunately here, Steelers 18, Falcons 10. This game stunk. This game was boring. Shout out to Chris Boswell scoring all 18 of the Steelers' points. Yeah, that's he also had a punt in the game. The Steelers punter got hurt, so he was their best player. Shout out to Chris Boswell, and shout out to TJ Watt, who was tricking the refs into thinking he was offside. He was just timing the snaps that well, and he was behind Caleb McGarry when it happened. Like, TJ Watt could have had a 3-sack, 2 forced fumble, multiple tackle for loss performance type game, like, and he still had one of the best games of the week from a defensive player in my mind, but the refs just kind of got him, and like the refs shouldn't have got him, but TJ Watt, absolutely great. Justin Fields starting for Russ injured and should just be starting from here on out if we're being completely honest, but he refused to throw to the middle of the field, and I say that literally. You look at his passing chart, lots of throws to the left, lots of throws to the right, nothing in the middle, allergic to the middle of the field. Very funny. And then, yeah, I think last thing for the Steelers, Arthur Smith, back on his bullshit. Van Jefferson outplayed George Pickens. George Pickens is the only reason the Steelers offense moved the ball. He had 2 big catches. George Pickens is awesome. He's just a baller. Like, I love George Pickens. But yeah, Van Jefferson outsnapped George Pickens in this one. And Jalen Warren was also used less than Cordero Patterson. And Jalen Warren, who was the best running back on the Steelers last year, only got 3 rushing attempts to Najee's 22. Arthur Smith continues to just do Arthur Smith things, and maybe he'll learn, probably not. Falcons on the other side, that was bad. That was not good at all. Shout out to the defense for not allowing a touchdown, I guess, but Kirk, at least Rodgers, and I give Kirk a little bit of the benefit of the doubt because he is like 2 months or something behind Rodgers' Achilles schedule. Did a different surgery too, I guess, but he looked bad. Like he could not move. They were like making him not move. Didn't do a lot of play action. They were in pistol or shotgun 96% of the time. In the 26 snaps in pistol, they ran the ball 81% of the time. In the 22 snaps in shotgun, they had 0 designed runs. So in pistol, they're running the ball. In shotgun, they were passing the ball. Very easy for a team like Mike Tomlin and the Steelers to figure out. Not tough. So the offense just unimaginative, but I don't know. It's tough, and now you're in a spot where you paid Kirk all this money. He's your starter, and you just drafted a guy who maybe he gives you a better chance to win right now while Kirk's getting healthy. But then why would you pay Kirk all that money if you knew that he wasn't healthy? The Falcons, I just don't know what they're doing. Very, very tough start to their year. Like losing by 6 field goals is, I don't know, like death by 1,000 kicks, like quite literally. Shout out to the Steelers and Mike Tomlin. That's what they're going to do, and this is what they're going to do to teams because they've just been doing it for decades now. I think that's all I got. Next game up here, Vikings 28, Giants 6. Shout out to Sam Darnold. Year 7 bump, maybe. This is maybe his breakout year. He went 12-12 to start the game. And he has weapons like Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, Hawkinson when he comes back. Aaron Jones was doing Aaron Jones things. One of my favorite running backs of recent anyways. And they went against a Giants team that just absolutely stunk. Like Sam Darnold, like he looked great. He did his thing, but like he didn't really have to do much because holy shit, do the Giants just love to shoot themselves in the foot. And when I say the Giants, I mean Daniel Jones. This is honestly one of the worst stats that I have written down since I've been doing this podcast, but Daniel Jones, since signing his big $40 million extension, he has more pick sixes than touchdowns to his own team. He has 3 pick sixes. He has 2 touchdowns to his own team. That is garbage. And I know he hasn't really played a lot of football because he was hurt all of last year, but it's terrible. And you see a guy like Saquon, who was the face of that franchise, who was the guy, and you look at that mistake by extending Daniel Jones, not extending Saquon. Because I don't know, if the Giants had Saquon, Malik Neighbors, their O-line has improved a little bit. He's Daniel Jones, he just gets sacked a ton. But if, Saquon, Neighbors, and, you put him in any QB, you have Drew Lock even. That's a better team. That's a team that can maybe win some games, because this Giants defense tried. Dexter Lawrence was an absolute game wrecker. He is so much fun to watch. It's incredible what he does at that size. His ability to get to the quarterback from the interior. Kayvon Thibodeau sucks. That's fine. Deontay Banks did an admirable job against Justin Jefferson, as anyone does. But Daniel Jones is so bad, and I do feel bad for him too, because he's leaving the arena and people are booing him and telling him and he sucks, and you don't want that. That confidence is such an important part of any athlete's game, and he just has none. He's tired and beaten down, and he's done. Daniel Jones is just not a good QB. But yeah, I still have a little bit of faith in the Giants. Brian Dable, I like Brian Dable, but Daniel Jones is just not it. It's tough. Next game up here, Jags 17, Dolphins 20. And before we get into anything here, the first news of this game happened around 10 a.m., a few hours before kickoff, obviously, with Tyreek Hill getting placed in handcuffs following a traffic violation. The body cam footage has all been released. The cops were saying Tyreek was going 100. He was being He was being rude and tough to deal with. Ridiculous. He was speeding. He was not going that fast. The cops, as always, were on a power trip. They even put Walter Payton Man of the Year, Calais Campbell, one of the nicest men in the NFL. They put him in handcuffs because he was just concerned about his teammate. And obviously, it's a scary situation with cops not knowing who you are. One of the cops on the body cam footage came over and be like, "Do you know who that is?" And the guy was like, "No." He's like, "That's Tyreek Hill." And the cop was immediately like, "Oh, fuck." Embarrassing. And he was right outside of Hard Rock Stadium. But yeah, cops going on a power trip. What else is new? Let's get into the game here, though. Dolphins, yeah. Jags 17, Dolphins 20. This is a game that we should not have won. It was sloppy. There was some missed throws in the first half, but second half we got going. We hit that massive 80-yard touchdown to Tyreek. Tua was 12 of 16, 207 yards, 1 TD in the second half. The run game wasn't going. Mostert got banged up. Achane got banged up a little bit. Thank God we have Jeff Wilson. I think Jalen Wright was also out, or maybe he was just inactive, but not a great start with injuries. Jalen Waddle also got banged up. It's not good, not what you want right now. But I'll take being injured right now and winning a game than being injured at the end of the year going into playoffs and like being like, well, the team fucking sucks. It is what it is. Yeah, like we played well. Shout out to Javon Holland. Shout out to that defense in the second half for really bringing it, really shutting down the Jags. Javon Holland obviously forced that fumble on ETN when he was about to walk into the end zone, and that was really the TSN turning point. Excellent job by the Dolphins. Excellent job by Anthony Weaver in his defensive coordinator debut. Shout out to Jalen Phillips coming back from his Achilles injury, getting a sack on Trevor Lawrence late in the game. He looked like he never left. Like, he looked incredible. Shout out to his rehab because he's absolutely crushing it after, I mean, obviously he's much younger than Rodgers and Kirk, but like seeing the way those guys move and seeing the way that Jalen Phillips moved, absolutely night and day. Yeah, and again, happy with the win, happy we came back. Like, I love seeing that, but like not a good performance from the team in week one. And we have the Bills on Thursday night. So that should be, that should be a lot of fun. But confidence not great right now. That's all I could say. Jags on the other side, they should have won this. Like, but I don't know what they were doing towards the end of the game. After that ETN fumble, Trevor Lawrence only passed the ball one time. And they were passing the ball fairly well. Not crazy effectively, but Brian Thomas Jr. was cooking. He had the 40-yard defensive pass interference on Jalen Ramsey where he cooked Ramsey. And I mean, when you're Brian Thomas and you're 6'4" and you run a low 4.3, like when you get going, not a lot of guys are keeping up with you. DPI at the 1, they score a touchdown there, and then he had the nice route where he kind of ran across the back of the end zone, and Trevor Lawrence, a beautiful ball by Trevor Lawrence, by the way, found him there. But it was just another classic Jags game where they kind of shoot themselves in the foot. Their defensive line looked good. Trayvon Walker and Josh Hines-Allen, they looked awesome. Eric Armstead also. Like the defense did its job. Obviously, a few plays that Tua missed. There was another deep shot to Tyreek that could have been a touchdown, but that's because he got pressured. But the Jags keep shooting themselves in the foot, and I don't know how many times this has to happen before Doug Peterson is gone, Press Taylor is gone. Doug Peterson blamed his defense instead of Press Taylor, who has not done a good job ever since Peterson's got there. Like, that offense has not been solid or even... It's so up and down. Like, there's no consistency on it. And it's kind of, I don't know, it's another Jag season, it looks like. I think something has to change at the coaching positions for them to really get going anywhere. Shout out to Tank Bigsby, though. He looks like he's going to take a sophomore jump. Maybe Etienne on the way down, because I don't think Etienne's ever been a number one running back. But Tank Bigsby looked very good. But yeah, Dolphins sneak away with that one. Next game up, Patriots 16, Bengals 10. This was a very, very boring defensive game. But shout out to the Patriots. They ruined so many people's survivor pools from last week, I'm sure of it. And that defense came out to play under Gerard Mayo. Gonzalez absolutely locked up Jamar Chase on his 20 snaps versus Jamar, 3 catches for 15 yards. Keon White also going into his sophomore year, 2.5 sacks, 3 QB hits, 2 tackles for loss. Like, this is what the Patriots defense needed. I knew Gonzo was that guy. Like, before his injury last year, he was locking up wide receivers left and right. But after trading Judon, they needed someone to step up on this D-line to take over that role. And Keon White, seemingly, he put his hand up and he's like, I'm going to go out and fucking do it. Now, they're playing the Bengals, whose offensive line sucks, and he had to go against Trent Brown, who is also just washed at this point. So we'll see if he can do it next week. They're going against the Seahawks, whose offensive line also isn't very good. But shout out to the Patriots. Shout out to this defense. Like, they did what they were supposed to do. The offense, shout out to Ramondre. He ran all over the Bengals. He had like 120 plus yards. Jacoby Brissett did his thing. Gerard Mayo bringing a little bit of levity to his press conference after, being like he didn't expect Jacoby to rush because he's one of the slowest black players in the league, which is just funny. But yeah, shout out to the Patriots. I didn't expect a win against Joe Burrow and the Bengals, even though I don't think this Bengals team is very good. But now this just fits perfectly into my agenda that the Bengals aren't a good team, and I have reasons to prove it now. Starting off with Zach Taylor, not a good head coach. I have been on this kind of bandwagon train, whatever, for a while now, but I just don't think that Zach Taylor is capable. Like, when Joe Burrow is your quarterback and you have Jamar Chase as your number one weapon, you should be able to get Jamar Chase open. I don't think that's hard. Like, obviously, he had good Gonzalez covering him a lot, but Gonzalez wasn't on him 24/7. It should be easier to get Jamar Chase open. I don't know. Zach Moss, Chase Brown were fine. It's the offensive line is not good. Trent Brown, I said it already, is not good. Amarius Mims is already hurt, which that was his big concern at Georgia. He only played in 9 games over his 3-year career. So you can already see the questions that I had with the Bengals being answered a little bit. Obviously, they hope Higgins is back soon. He should be back this week. And, like, the Bengals had chances to win this game. Like, let's not, like, the Bengals had chances to win this game. There was Tanner Hudson just fumbled it again at the goal line, trying to carry the ball around like this for whatever reason. I don't know. For people listening, I was just moving my hands erratically with kind of whatever. But he was not good. Like, I don't know. Like, the Bengals shot themselves in the foot. The Patriots obviously played very well, but, like, the Bengals, like, and this is the thing, Zach Taylor, you got to win these games. Like, that should have been a layup of a game, even if your team played like shit, and it wasn't. And that Bengals defense, too. They have no run stuffers up the middle, and that's going to be an issue for them the entire year. But yeah, shout out to the Patriots. Next game up here, Cardinals 28, Bills 34. Josh Allen just doing Josh Allen things as he always does. Starts off with an early turnover and then absolutely locks in 18 of 23, 232 yards and 2 TDs. Also had 9 rushes for 39 yards and 2 TDs. Like, Josh Allen did his thing. He looked great. The Bills' offense as a whole looked pretty damn good. The Cardinals took Kincaid out of the game immediately. He didn't even get a catch, but actually got one catch for 11 yards. But Keon Coleman, 4 catches for 51. Khalil Shakir, 3 catches for 42 and a TD. Matt Collins got they have guys who will just keep getting involved. It is by committee approach with hopefully one of these guys asserting themselves as a number one guy. James Cook, pretty effective running the ball. Ray Davis got some touches too, but the Bills look good. Defense on the other hand, Taron Johnson out hurt. That's a big loss for them. And yeah, the Bills defense looked a little shaky to say the least. Obviously, letting up what would it have been? They had 28 points, but they only scored. Was there a defensive touchdown? I don't know. The Bills' defense was fine. Again, week one, things to work out, but the Bills are going to be a good team. Cardinals on the other side here. They had a chance to win the game late in this one, and Kyler just missed a wide open Marvin Harrison Jr. Marvin Harrison Jr., 1 catch, 9 yards. I don't know how that happens. I don't know how your best receiver doesn't really get targeted throughout the game. Sure. Shout out to DJ Dallas. I mentioned it a little bit earlier, scoring the first dynamic kick return in NFL history. Hopefully we start seeing more of those. But no, this is kind of what I expected from the Cardinals. They played a close game, better than expected. James Conner was kind of their feature guy. They obviously have to figure out the passing attack more with Marvin Harrison, Trey McBride, and Kyler there. Kyler looked tiny, as always, but I don't know. The Cardinals played a good game. Simple as that. We'll keep going here. Texans 29, Colts 27. The Texans looked awesome. Obviously, they had a few rough patches where it didn't look fantastic. They weren't 100% all systems go, but you can see why this team is going to be very, very good. CJ Stroud continues to look like CJ Stroud. Nico Collins, 6 catches for 117 yards. Stephon Diggs, the new wide receiver acquisition, he had 2 touchdowns. Tank Dell was very active. And then Joe Mixon, the big free agent running back signing that people were like, oh, okay, yeah. They got Joe Mixon. He's a little bit older, but he's solid. Absolutely crushed it in his debut. 30 rushes, 159 yards, and 1 touchdown. This Texans offense is just going to be humming all year long, in my opinion. The defense also played well, but I don't know. This is kind of what I expect from the Texans. Texans very good, but the only reason why this game was so fucking close was Anthony goddamn Richardson. Only 9 for 19 on the day for 212 yards, but his throw where he stumbled in the pocket, threw off his back foot, 63 yards in the air to Alec Pierce for a touchdown. I was stunned. I was mouth wide open. I was no fucking way did he just throw that. That was one of the nicest throws that I've seen in the NFL. That was just pure arm talent. And that is why the Colts are going to be in games. And if he can just rein it in just a little bit, the Colts could have kicked their ass. He had a few missed deep balls to A.D. Mitchell, who he only had 1 catch for 2 yards in his debut, but it could have been 4 catches for 150 and 2 TDs. He missed him by just a bit, and A.D. Mitchell isn't used to people overthrowing him. Ewers was underthrowing him a lot at Texas. Richardson was active on the ground. They're hoping that they can get Jonathan Taylor a little bit more involved. Their defense played well. Got to the QB a lot, which was their strength last year, but he completed 9 passes and they almost came back and beat the Texans, who are one of the best teams in football, in my opinion. Again, the talent is there with Anthony Richardson. If he can just hone it in just slightly, holy shit, is he going to be incredible? But he already is incredible because of the throws that he's making. They're going to be a fun team to watch all year. Next game up here, Titans 17, Bears 24. This game started off 17-0, and then an absolute collapse by the Titans. Started off with a... actually, I'll just say this. The Bears didn't even score... Their offense didn't even score any points in this game. There was 3 field goals, a defensive TD, and then a special teams TD. It was all special teams and defense in this one, which, shout out to the Bears. That's great. Jonathan Biles got the, Simone Biles' husband, got the blocked punt TD return. Tyreek Stevenson got the pick 6 on Will Levis, and oh my God, was that pick 6 atrocious. Like, that was one of the worst interceptions I have ever seen. Levis scrambling out to the right, defender like basically wrapped up around him, and Levis just decides to underhand throw it right to Tyreek Stevenson, who was an easy pick 6. Levis drops to his knees, hands on his head, being like, oh no, what did I fucking do? It was that bad of a pick. But yeah, shout out to Caleb Williams getting his first ever win. And obviously, they did not win because of Caleb Williams. Had a rather unspectacular debut, 14 of 29 for 93 yards. But it was, obviously the stats weren't there for Caleb. Keenan Allen did drop a touchdown, I will mention that. But they played a tough Titans defense. I'll start off with that. And Caleb, on like the last couple drives where they needed to get in field goal range or needed to chew out the clock, he did what he needed. He made the throws, he did the things where you could see he was just trying to do too much, things that he did in college where he's like, I'm just going to run backwards and eventually I'll get away. Can't do that in the NFL anymore. But I still believe in this Bears offense, and I do believe that it will get better. However, that interior of the offensive line got absolutely killed by the Titans. The Bears could not rush the ball. Caleb Williams did not have a lot of time to throw it. But that's what happens when you go against Jeffrey Simmons and the mammoth of a man, Tavondre Sweat, who I heard his name called out quite a lot on Red Zone while I was watching. But yeah, the Titans defense looked good, looked very capable, and I think that they will be a tough team to play against tough defense to play against all year. But Will Levis did not look good. Like, Will Levis looked like a bad quarterback, and I didn't have a lot of faith in Will Levis to begin with, and now I don't know if he's the guy, because there was a lot of things working for the Titans in this one, and this is a game that they easily should have won. Actually, what was the stat? I had a crazy-ass stat for this one, I'm pretty sure. Yep. Teams trailing by 2 or more scores at halftime who failed to score an offensive touchdown all game had been 2 and 306 since 2000. The Bears made it 3 and 306 today. Yeah. Bears shouldn't have won this one. Titans should have won this one. Titans absolutely blew it. Will Levis has to show something. We'll keep moving on. Panthers 10, Saints 47. What the fuck? That was every time the game went back to red zone or I checked my phone to look at scores and stats and stuff like that, the Saints were just winning by more and more. Little bit of egg on my face. Didn't expect much from them, obviously, if you heard any of my previews going into the year, but the old guys showed up, and of course, I expect the old guys to play their best week 1. We'll see how it goes on to the rest of the season. But like Derek Carr, 19 to 23, 3 passing touchdowns, 200 yards. Alvin Kamara, 83 rushing yards and a TD. Also 27 yards receiving. Rashid Shaheed had a big touchdown. Shout out to Foster Moreau for getting a touchdown. The defense played great. Alontae Taylor, one of their corners, sacked Bryce Young 3 times. They were just so much pressure. Bryce, I don't know. The Saints, like, shout out to the Saints for winning. Like, that's great, but the fucking Panthers, man, that was
such an embarrassing performance to put up. And like I had a little bit of faith. And now all of that faith has gone away. Bryce Young, I don't know where the Bama version of him was, and I didn't really have high expectations for him going into the league, but I expect better than this. Like 30 of 13, 161 yards and 2 passing touchdowns. Like, really? Like, that's embarrassing. Interception, first play of the game, first throw of the game, right to a Saints defender. Started off the second half doing the exact same thing. Like, there was no positives to come away from this if you're a Panthers fan. Like, really. It was embarrassing. They get the Chargers this week, who, again, like, comparable to the Saints. Like, the Chargers are better than the Saints, obviously. Where I don't know what the expectations are. Like, really. But just rock bottom for the Panthers, and it's been that way for years at this point. I feel bad. We'll keep moving on here. Raiders at Chargers. Raiders 10, Chargers 22. It's a miracle. Hurrah. The Chargers have won by good coaching, a run game, and a solid defense. It is unbelievable. Who would have thought that this day would ever come? All jokes aside, though, like, good for the Chargers for winning a game like this, because they did not do it often, ever, in the last few years. So, shout out to them. Shout out to J.K. Dobbins, coming back after, I think, one was a knee injury, the other one was an Achilles injury, and you could see his wiggle. He still has it. 10 carries, 135 yards. 1 TD. Should have had a couple more TDs, obviously. His long-term speed, it's gone. And he said, he's like, I thought I was in shape. I'm not in shape. So we'll see if maybe he gets better as the season goes on. But that was crazy. It's like, oh, shit, he's gone. And then he would just lose it after 30 yards, and then they would eventually catch up. Why did that get so much darker? I don't know. It's adjusting. Never mind. Whatever. Justin Herbert played fine. Like, he did exactly what he needed to do in this one. But again, they want to run the football. They are going to run the football. Really, shout out to Joe Alt for locking up Max Crosby. I think Max Crosby went against him 8 or 9 times, I believe. Joe Alt, nothing. 0-0-0-0 for Max. And he also had to go against Rashawn Slater if he wasn't going against Joe Alt. And he also got clamped, and that's a very good sign. Like, Joe Alt, who has never played right tackle in his life before, going against one of the best pass rushers in the league and holding his own consistently over a number of reps. Huge confidence builder, and I might be early to say, but I think that the Chargers have the best tackle duo in the league. I don't know. Again, early to say. Joe Alt's only played 1 game, but the dude locked up Max Crosby. Week 1 overreaction, definitely, but the Chargers have their tackles for the next decade plus, which is a wonderful, wonderful thing. Raiders on the other side. I don't know. Like, I guess you tried to start a fight at the end of the game. Good job, Jack Jones. Antonio Pierce makes some questionable decisions. Punted at midfield when it was 4th and 1, when they were down multiple scores, to give his defense a chance to pin them deep or whatever, to get the ball back at midfield. I don't know. Like, I don't have expectations for the Raiders. They're in purgatory right now. They're just kind of, let's try to get a good team around everything and then figure out the quarterback. But figuring out the quarterback's the hardest part. Gardner Minshew, clearly not the guy, but, like, I don't know. It should be better with Devontae Adams, Jacoby Myers, Brock Bowers, Michael Mayer. I don't know. Like, is what it is. Next game up here, Broncos 20, Seahawks 26. This game could have been a lot worse for both teams, honestly. The Seahawks took 2 safeties in this one and gave the Broncos multiple opportunities in short fields to score off turnovers, and lucky for them, they were playing rookie Bo Nix, who I'll talk about him in a bit, but woof. Seahawks going through their early struggles with a new offensive system and a first-year NFL play caller in Ryan Grubb. Geno Smith played okay, 18 of 25 for 171 yards, a passing TD and an interception. DK Metcalf got locked up. Tyler Lockett is still Tyler Lockett. Whenever people think, oh, he's taking a step back, maybe not this year, maybe later in the season, but right now, 6 catches for 77 yards. Kenneth Walker, 103 yards on the ground and a touchdown. He looked good. Actually, Geno Smith had a 34-yard rushing touchdown, which should get talked about. Shout out to Geno Smith. This defense wreaked havoc on the Broncos' offensive front. You can see the pieces of this Mike Macdonald defense, and if this is what it looks like in Week 1, I'm excited to see what it looks like in the coming weeks here. But on the other side, the Broncos. I talked about them. Hey, they had 2 safeties. The defense played well, like they were doing those things, like their thing, forced multiple turnovers. But the Broncos offense could not do anything, and it was one of the funnier NFL debuts I think I've ever watched. Bo Nix finished the day. Oh, I don't think I actually have his stats here, but I do got some Bo Nix stats here. So Bo Nix had 42 plus attempts with 138 yards or fewer. Actually, let's redo that here. So the only QBs to have 42 plus attempts with 138 yards or fewer, we got nearly 40-year-old Big Ben and Canadian Jesse Palmer, and now Bo Nix. Bo Nix was also 2 for 12 for 42 yards and 2 picks. Should have been 3 picks, or could have been another 3 picks. There was a lot of dropped interceptions that, God, I'm having a hard time talking shit about Bo Nix, which shouldn't be that hard. Either way, but that was, he was 2 of 12 from 10 plus yards for 42 yards, 2 picks. Could have been another 3 picks in there. Like, he could have had a 5-pick performance, like, quite easily. Rushed the ball pretty effectively, but it was bad. Like, they had so many short field opportunities and so many chances to really put the Seahawks away early and took advantage of none of them. Like, Bo Nix averaged 3 yards per attempt. Absolutely abysmal. I don't know. This is what happens when, at his best, his ceiling is a guy like Jimmy G. That's not great. Like, at his best and at his worst, congrats on drafting, I don't even know what it would be, like, Kenny Pickett, Kenny Pickett. I don't get it. They get another tough matchup, I believe, again this week. Let me just check that quickly. They get the Steelers. They get TJ Watt. That'll be fun for Bo Nix to deal with. The Broncos defense looked good, looked capable. They got kind of a hot start. But Bo Nix is just, he's not the guy. Next game up, Commanders 20, Bucks 37. Baker is the MVP frontrunner right now, in my opinion. Like, he looked like vintage Baker, 24 of 30, 289 yards, 4 TDs. Just out there having a lot of fun. Mike Evans, multiple touchdowns. I think Godwin had a touchdown. I think their rookie Jalen McMillan had a touchdown. They just looked out like they were having fun out there. On the flip side of that, the Commanders' defense is, I think, bad. And when I say bad, I mean bad. Last note on the Bucks, I'm really not going to spend long on this game, is shout out to Bucky Irving. He was running the ball very, very well, and something that Rachaad White cannot do. And I think that Bucky Irving, they will slide into a 1A role B with Rachaad White at some point. But yeah, the Commanders' terrible. Absolutely terrible. They don't have any stars whatsoever or any plus players on that defense whatsoever. Actually, that's not true. They have Deron Payne and Jonathan Allen. What am I saying? But it's not a good unit. It's not going to be good because this Bucks offense isn't like a world beating offense. They look very good this week, but like I think it's more because the Commanders are fucking atrocious. Shout out to Jaden Daniels. Played like the best rookie QB this week. Actually, that might be safe for Drake May or Michael Penix, who just sat on the bench and didn't do anything. But Jaden Daniels, 2 rushing TDs. He looked like Jaden Daniels. I don't think he was overly impressive. He played okay. He played okay. First start is what it is. But Cliff Kingsbury continues to do Cliff Kingsbury things. Terry McLaurin was lined up on the left side of the field for 95% of the snaps. So shout out to Cliff Kingsbury and all of his imaginative ingenuity on the offensive side of the ball. Next game up, Cowboys 33, Browns 17. Shout out to the Cowboys, I guess. The offensive line held up well against this very good Browns defense and defensive front. Browns defense just ended up getting very tired for obvious reasons, which I'll get into. But Cowboys O-line held up well, and that was a big question I had going into the year. Now, they won by a ton, but this kind of reminds me of those early Cowboys games at the start of last year where they whooped on the Saints and the Patriots in back-to-back weeks. I think the Jets too. I think that was one of them too. But like, neither unit was really tested. I'll say that. The offense was okay. I don't think that they have a run game, which makes sense when you have Zeke and Rico Dowdle. CD did his thing. Dak played okay. The defense played fine, like Micah Parsons was doing his thing. But again, that defense was not tested at all because holy shit does Deshaun Watson suck. Like a bad quarterback. In the first half, he was 0 for 7 on throws past 5 yards. He was 0 for 4 when pressured, 0 for 4 against the blitz. Finished his day 24 of 45 for 169 yards, 1 TD, 2 interceptions. Like, it's done with him. I don't know the people who are still holding out hope that, we'll get the Texans version of him back any week now. He's played one half of good football in the past 3 seasons. We haven't seen him play good football since 2020. Like, it's over. It is absolutely over. And another allegation came out where people are saying, the Browns were holding on to this one in case they wanted to get out of his contract, because his contract is the worst contract in football history. That's not even, people were like, the Russell Wilson one. No, it is this one by a landslide. And it's embarrassing. Like, Jameis Winston would be the better quarterback to play. I have no doubts in my mind about that. Watson just stinks. And the guys on Pardon My Take, Big Cat PFT, they made a joke this week where, I think that was before the allegation came out, where, Deshaun Watson's actually a better human than he is a football player. That's just how bad a football player is. But I'm going to go the opposite. He's a better football player than he is human, and he's a shit football player. But that's just how disgusting of a human being he is. The Browns just aren't going to do anything with him. But the Browns are going to Brown, and this is what happens. They deserve nothing but the worst, in my opinion, for giving that man all his money. And you'll see in a couple weeks where Watson's going to have some magical new injury that's going to send him out for the rest of the season. And it'll be Jameis, it'll be DTR, and Watson sitting on the bench doing nothing for the next couple years. But hey, Kadarius Toney is on the way. Reinforcements have arrived. It'll be funny to see how he gets used. And finally, last game up here, the Sunday Night Football game. Rams 20, Lions 26. This game went into overtime. Shout out to the Lions, though. That last drive of the game in overtime, they played big boy football, got the run game going with David Montgomery. He looks absolutely solid still. That offensive line was just moving this very young Rams defensive line, who they held up. I was quite actually surprised, and I'll talk about them in a bit. But yeah, they played big boy football in that overtime drive, went right down the field, scored to end the game. But yeah, the Rams defense held up well. They shut down Amon-Ra. They shut down Laporta. But this was the big Jamison Williams breakout game, 5 catches for 120 yards and a TD. If he can do that consistently, if people have to worry about him being the overtop threat while Laporta and Amon-Ra are doing everything in between, this Lions team, this Lions offense could take another step up, and I already think that this defense is taking a step up. Hutch was an absolute issue for this Rams offensive line, and I think I'm done with I think I'm done with the Lions. Like, the defense looked good. DJ Reader still being held out. I can't wait for him to get inserted into that lineup. Tyrion Arnold held up well. I think Carlton Davis got hurt at the end of the game, but I believe he's going to be okay. Haven't heard anything about that, but shout out to the Lions. The Lions looked really good. Rams also looked really good. Matt Stafford playing kind of like vintage Matt Stafford, had some excellent moments, had some like, what the fuck are you doing moments, but the Rams held up well. Unfortunately, Puka Nacua is going on IR for at least the next 4 weeks. That sucks for me fantasy-wise, but also just sucks because that just takes away their number one option. But Cooper Kupp, 20 targets, 14 catches. Like Puka was never even there, essentially. Tyler Johnson made some big plays. Demarcus Robinson made some big plays. Kyron Williams made some big plays. Blake Corum wasn't used whatsoever. Colby Parkinson made some plays. And this Rams team is already very, very hurt on that offensive line. Jonah Jackson came into this one already kind of a little bit banged up. Ulrich Jackson suspended. Joseph Noteboom now has an injury. Rob Havenstein has an injury. Steve Avila left the game with an injury. I think some of their backups also got hurt. Like, this Rams offensive line has already taken a beating, and they've played one game of the year. And was an issue of mine going into the season, which I don't think I really talked about in the previews because I talked about it too early and the Rams weren't that hurt. But now the Rams are viciously hurt, but I still believe in them, and I still believe in them because this defense held up well. Other than Trey White getting absolutely burned by JMO, but Trey White, after all of his injuries at his age, like, that's fine that a 4-3 guy burned you on kind of a hook and go. He tried to tackle him too, and it just couldn't save the touchdown there. But no, I was very impressed by this Rams defensive line with Byron Young, Braden Fisk, Bobby Brown, Bobby Brown, Kobe Turner, and Jared Verse. Like, they all played very well as a unit. Now, obviously, when push comes to shove, that final drive, that Lions offensive line is the best one in football, and they move them. But this Rams defensive line is going to be a problem. It might not be a problem right now, might start to be a problem by the end of the season, but I think next year we're really going to see that unit thrive. And I got some faith in this. I got some faith in this Rams defense, and hopefully the Rams offense can stay healthy, stay afloat for a little bit. But yeah, that does it for the week 1 recap here. And I'm doing a little something new. I'm doing a winner of a week. I'm doing the loser of the week. So to start off, winner of the week, we got Baker Mayfield, 24 of 30 for 289 yards, 4 TDs. Sam Darnold, 19 of 24, 2 TDs, 1 interception. We have the New England Patriots as a whole. And then Joe Mixon, 30 rushes, 159 yards, and 1 TD. And my winner of the week, I'm being a bigger person here, it is the New England Patriots. Again, they crushed so many people's dreams in survivor pools this week, I'm sure of it. They played hard for Gerard Mayo. That defense looked good. The offense looked whatever, but they got the win, and that's what matters, and proved a lot of people wrong. So shout out to the Patriots. And for the loser of the week, we got the nominees here. We have the Panthers. We have Bo Nix going 26 of 42 for 138 yards and 2 picks. The Nasty Man, 24 of 45 for 169 yards, 1 TD and 2 interceptions. And then Daniel Jones, 22 of 42, 186 yards and 2 interceptions, one of those being a pick 6. Also, shout out to Andrew Van Ginkel. I completely forgot to mention his pick 6 where Daniel Jones just threw it right to him. But my loser of the week isn't actually going to go to Daniel Jones. it is going to go to the Panthers because getting beat by 37 to the Saints is embarrassing. And I'm embarrassed myself because I was a believer of you guys going into the season, and now I am definitely not. Until I see Bryce Young play one good game of football, like again, it's the same thing as Deshaun Watson. Kind of, not really. I haven't seen Bryce Young play good football in this league yet. And until I see him put together a solid, very good game, why would I believe in the Panthers? So I still got a little part of me believing in the Panthers, but like I need to see something first before I'm like, okay, we're back in again. I just hope they hit their win total at this point. But Panthers, my loser of the week. The Patriots, the big winner of the week. And that'll do it for this episode. Back to 2 episodes a week now. I will be back Friday morning to blind recap the Thursday night game and preview this week's upcoming matchups. And NFL is back. I'm fucking thrilled. And as always, if you've liked this, please like, share, retweet, subscribe, tell all your friends, and until next time, peace.